Okay, so thank you everybody for joining our first session of the SAP BTP Garage for 2025. We're excited to be hosting the series again this year. We will be sticking to the same format. So we had quite a few members join over the vacation time, so over Christmas and the New Year. So if you're joining us for the first time today, I will give just a little bit of insights into what the series is all about and what the goal of the series is. So the BTP Garage is a monthly call where we bring SAP BTP use cases to you and bring on the experts that are creating the use cases and tell you about which SAP BTP services you can leverage to solve particular business problems. And you can have direct access to the experts and also go through what are called SAP Discovery Center missions. So if you don't know about those yet, you'll learn about it today, but it's a great way to get actually into the services and get your hands on with the enablement resources that are available to you. So for today's call, we're going to be focusing on one specific use case, specifically using document information extraction, or docs if you're familiar with it. I've brought on two experts, one that's in the background as well in the chat for support. So I have Julian Schombeck and Robin Purschwitz, and they're both experts for this use case. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the call, so the last 10 or 15 minutes, but of course you can ask your questions in the chat beforehand and we will address them at the end. For the mission, so as I talked about, we focus on one mission in every call. This mission is, you can find here on SAP Discovery Center. I will post a link to that directly in the chat after I'm done presenting. The recording for the call will be made available on YouTube. It usually takes us 24 or 48 hours to upload that, but I will also provide a link to the SAP BTP Garage playlist where you can find that afterwards. This is a virtual event that we're running, so it's a monthly virtual series that we run, but we do also do hands-on in-person partner workshops. So here's just a couple that are coming up. I will also post a link to the registration for those in the chat as well. But with that, I will go ahead and hand over to our experts. So I think, Julian, you're going to start us off and just give a heads up on what the use case is all about, which services we're leveraging, and where everybody can go to get started.
Yes, that's right. Thanks for having us. I will quickly share my screen. I assume you can see it.
Yep, we can see it. Looks good.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Julian. I'm a developer. I develop use cases on the BTP for customers. And with me today, I have a colleague of mine, Robin, also developer. And one such a use case is what inspired the mission/sample, which we want to walk you through in this talk. So for the structure of the talk, I will say a few words about the motivation for sharing the sample and making it public. Then I will dive into the details of the use case, which you need to know, how our sample fits into the broader picture of SAP's offering. Then we will get to the more interesting parts of this talk, where I will show you the app live running on BTP. And then we'll move over to Robin, who will show you how you can get the app to run in your own SAP account on BTP or locally on your own laptop. We also have a colleague of ours, Gerd, in the chat. So as Cecily said, if you have any questions up front, feel free to post them already. He will be trying to answer any use case related questions. Cool. For the motivation, it was really twofold. So the title of this mission sample is Facilitating Invoice Validation, Leveraging Document Information Extraction. And the emphasis is really on that. So we felt like it is going to be a value add if there's a public code repository showing exactly what code you need to talk to docs, to use it. In this case, from within CAP. So for those of you that do not know, CAP is essentially SAP's framework to write an API in a SAP context. It makes your life easier when you know you want to leverage other BTP services, you want your app to run on BTP. And it's also the framework SAP advocates for to use it. And in our sample, we use CAP, and we show you exactly what code, how many lines you need to then leverage something like docs. But in the end, it's very similar for any other BTP service. So that's like one part. The other part is SAP talks a lot about this abstract concept of a clean core. And for me, this for a long time was really difficult to understand what does it even mean. And I feel like this sample, without really knowing it up front, I now feel like it's a good showcase what that exactly means. That's exactly what we are trying to do here with this sample, i.e. building an app, a sample on BTP to fulfill certain custom requirements, but then at the same time still using the SAP standard product and let them play together to have your overall requirements covered. We also have a video, we have a GitHub. This was really important to me. So of course we have the mission. I assume you have seen one of those before. And this is, for example, the project board. Certain parts of that Robin will walk you through later on. Also, we have a GitHub, as I said, where you can already see all the code. Most of the code which is relevant for connecting to docs is in this API folder. So feel free to check it out. Maybe Gert or someone can already post it in the chat, Robin or Gert, if anyone wants to check that out already. And a lot of the content is also sort of originates from the GitHub, but it is also shown in the Discovery Center. Further, we have a video. If you are short in time, I encourage you to check that out, or if you want to show it to someone else. It's a 3 or 4 minutes walkthrough of the app. This I will also demo to you later on. Now let's get to the use case. One caveat first, I really want to emphasize this is a sample. This sample and also the use case which we try to cover with it is not something we invented in the lab or anything like that. It's based on an engagement we had with a real customer. I'm not saying that this use case is representative for any other customer in that industry, but for sure, when talking to this customer, this was sort of precisely the problem they were facing and they wanted to alleviate. And that was precisely invoice validation or invoice correction. So the customers in this unique position that they, as input, got a lot of invoices in the form of scanned PDFs. So you couldn't just copy paste, text. They didn't have any OCR or some other means of extracting the data in the PDF to some structured format to work with it. What they did instead is really they had a PDF, they downloaded it, they opened it in Adobe and ran through the PDF line by line, double checking that the amounts are correct. And we quickly faced a few terms which we needed to learn. So most prominent term, what is really a position? Nothing difficult. Position is simply a line item, a line in the invoice. So I have that emphasized here. Position would be the number 1.1. We have, in this case, and for this customer, it was all revolving around construction and companies which they contracted to construct a building or sort of the likes of that. So you often had something like a quantity, a unit price, a total amount for just this position. As you can imagine, if you then aggregate this over all the positions, you get the amount which you need to pay eventually. The other two scenarios were that they needed to cover deductions and retention. So deductions is something is there, something was delivered as planned, but it was for whatever reason damaged. One example being a door. The door was delivered, but somewhere along the way, it got damaged, and you now want to reduce the overall amount. Last but not least, retention. Retention means something hasn't been delivered yet, or a service which you paid for or want to pay for, need to pay for eventually, hasn't been fulfilled yet. So you're withholding some money and you, of course, do not want to pay the total amount of the invoice just yet. So all these three different sort of entities they wanted to represent and manage in one self-contained application, as opposed to this manual process of working with PDFs. Again, for this company, it might be they might be in this unique position where they did a lot of manual work, like they even hired other people to help them with that. Not saying this is the case for every other company. The invoice which you see here is a simplified but still very realistic example for an invoice that they showed us and which they need to work with in their day-to-day. You would be surprised, at least for them, how many things they really needed to double check that they are correct in the invoice. So what I mean, this is sort of the way they did it. They opened it in Adobe, drew something, added some comments, why they think the amount should be different. It was really cumbersome. And what they told us is, at least in the construction industry, this seems to be very prevalent. For some reason, in other industries, maybe not so much. But of course, I think it's understandable that if you run the risk of losing a lot of money just by not checking the invoice one more time, it makes sense to either automate this or make it easier for a human to validate this and be quicker with it. We built a very custom sample to depict this custom process which they had. So they had, of course, people from like internal people, we call them accounting, who first can take a look at the invoice which is coming in. But a lot of the things you would only really you can only really double check if you are locally at the construction site. So this is all sort of in a construction scenario. And for that, they actually hired external people from other companies. They contracted other companies with expertise in construction, who were at the construction site, who looked around, talked to the people, what is going wrong, what is damaged, what is just not right. So they had sort of a person of trust, which they could rely on if they're really paying what they should be paying. And it was a custom process which potentially had multiple iterations. So it could be that the accounting manager says, it's fine, I will accept this invoice, let's pay it immediately on a high level. Or more like the case, it's, hey, looks about right, but please, please go to the construction and check, is there anything else which needs to be adjusted? And this is sort of an iteration here, a loop of validation. And you see here, as I said, they didn't have any OCR, they just had scanned PDF. So one of the first things which we did is we thought, well, can we make their life easier by first piping this through docs, which extracts for us, does an OCR pass on the whole invoice, extract it into a format that we can then work with, so structured data, tabular data, and it's exactly what we did. Again, take this with a grain of salt. It's a sample. It's not a productive solution. It doesn't try to compete with SAP standard offering, for example, with something like Ariba Central Invoice Management. To the contrary, we firmly believe that in the end, it still needs to play together. So this sample, it fulfills the custom requirements which they had for this two-role, two-person validation process. This was not something super standard, and so it's understandable it's not in a standard product. But this is what we covered with our extension on BTP. But whatever our extension outputs, then at the end, it still needs to be completed. The invoice needs to be completed in this example now, SIM, Central Invoice Management, and the payment needs to be triggered, the status needs to be completed, it needs to be persisted in the S4, the status change. Here, our sample, it doesn't have too many components. The bulk of it is our API. Although it's a very small service, we wrote it with CAP, so this Cloud Application Programming Model. We have a small UI, as we will see in a second, and then standard stuff. In the backend, we store the tabular data which we extracted from the invoices. just for the sample to make our life easy in HANA Cloud. And then we stored the invoices PDF. Just imagine a scenario where you want it to be scalable. We stored those in Amazon S3 in an object store. Again, you could use whatever object store, also some Azure variant, or could also store it directly in HANA. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day for this sample here. And then, of course, really Docs is doing the magic for us. Without it, wouldn't be possible. Okay. Then finally, it's about time that I demo you the app live, so that you also see what I'm talking about. Okay. This is really just a part of our sample, so this is not connected to SIM. It's really self-contained for what we did and also for demonstration purposes. This is the landing page. I want us to imagine for a second that I'm from the customer, I'm internal, I'm an accounting member, and this entry page shows me what invoices have been assigned to me specifically for validation. And I see those invoices, they are related to some projects, all here construction projects. And I will just pick any, doesn't really matter, I'll pick this first. And in the top, so we have the company we contracted to construct the building. We have some metadata, which we extracted from the invoice. So basically those header fields here, also through docs. We see some status information that, okay, I'm accounting member. It's now my time to validate this invoice. And to the left side, we have a PDF viewer, which shows the raw PDF. And you can see there's something weird going on here. There are these bounding boxes. And these bounding boxes, this is where docs comes in and tries to make the life of the human easier. Because sure, you could say, well, I can see the text anyway, right? Like, why do I need to overlay them with bounding boxes? It doesn't really make it any prettier. But what we can now do is we don't need, as an validator, we don't need to, if you now want to make a correction. So for example, if I say I want to correct here position 3.1 steel stairs, let's say we only order 2. This is a mistake. For whatever reason, we only order 2 and we want to correct this. It would be a bit cumbersome if someone now needs to pre-fill all those values manually. So what Docs allows us with these boxes, we can track where you click. So if you now click on this, it's going to pre-fill for exactly that position all the values, so that you only need to make a small tweak. So let's say what I said, we only order 2. I'll leave a comment and then save this. So in this way, I could now work through the invoice, make changes, and hopefully it doesn't take too long. We'll also, I looked at this invoice before, so one other thing which I noticed is we are ordering doors, but I was informed that one door was for some reason not delivered. So I will add a retention here. And then for deduction, let's say the door was damaged along the way. So this is the frame door here, 0.1. We reduce it by 300. To be fair, this would be something more likely for an expert and an external validator to make this correction here. Because you kind of need to be on the construction really to know, to be the first person knowing that, oh, the door was damaged or something. As an accounting member, you wouldn't really know that. Whenever I think I'm fine at the first pass, I can now forward this to someone else. Here, Emily is our external validator. Emily's on the construction side. And you see here the status change. So now it's time for Emily to validate the invoice, and I'm done for now. And you see also my changes have affected the total amount here, which I see now, which needs to be paid in the end. If I go back, there's another invoice which is assigned to me. Here it's not completely empty. I see our external validator already has made some changes. So we can see the reasons here. For example, position 4, I can jump here, position 4, that's this line, remove excavated earth. We agreed on a different price here, or here, first position, the construction pit isn't as big as they made it out to be. It's actually just 180 square meters. And they're also, apparently, when they did the insulation, it wasn't properly done. So part of it was not insulated properly. I think this looks kind of good. So what I will do now is just, I mean, also just for later, I could download a snapshot, which is a PDF which summarizes all the changes which I did, and also appends the original invoice at the end. And now I will just say accept. And this would be the point in time where it now needs to flow into SIM or S4 so that the payment is triggered and the invoice is really completed. Because at this point in time, really nothing has happened yet for the invoice to be paid. Okay, yes, that's it. So if I go back here now, I see on my assigned invoices, they have been validated for now. For the one invoice, I will be waiting for feedback from the external validator, but that's kind of it for now. Having said that, I will pass to Robin to show you how you can run it in your own sub account.
All right, then thank you, Julian. We'll quickly share my screen. I hope you can see it. And
yeah,
that's good.
Yep, thanks. Yeah, now we are on our global account at our BTP cockpit, so on our own SAP BTP. We have, as I said, a global account here, and I've already created a sub account, this Docs Vision test. And yeah, basically what I did here was creating the sub account and enabling Cloud Foundry here. And the next thing you have to do is go to the entitlements here. And there are some services that are not included in the standard. So for example, and I can also show it here in our, so this is our GitHub repo. You can just clone it with the git clone command. I think you know it. This is the repo you can get the URL from. And there are some, as I said, some entitlements that you have to manually add, being these 4 entitlements. And for example, this SAP HANA Cloud, the way you add this is just type it in here, SAP HANA Cloud, and I've already added these 2. So theoretically, this tools application is not required, but yeah, for this sample, I added it. And also here, the HDI containers, we need a plain HDI shared, but that is all covered in this section here. So with all these added, cancel that. What I also did was I went into here, or first I went into this service marketplace and set up my SAP HANA Cloud service. And yeah, as you can see here, this tools, this HANA Cloud with the plain tools, you can click on here, and within here you can create your HANA instance, basically. So all I did here was just create an instance, click on Cloud Foundry here, click on next step, type in some instance name, some password, and after this step, you need to allocate some system memory. But yeah, I think It's not that important. What is important is that you then have this database right here. And the last thing I already did on this sub account is I created a space, being the dev space here. And if we look into here, we have some applications running, but don't mind these. These are from this morning's session. So don't mind these. Yeah, and we only have this one instance running in here, being the HANA Cloud database. So we get back here, and then we jump further into the documentation, the initial deployment. And what we do here, first we check our node version. We get back, we're on the correct node version, being version 20. And you can also check which version is required. You need at least node 20, which is stated in this package.json in the root directory. So we already have cloned the Git repository. We also have stored the global libraries already. Then you should run the npm run setup command, which you can see here executes the npm install in all the subfolders and also this root folder. So it is executed in this UI, in our router, and in our API. So the front end, the router, and the API. Yeah, exactly. So, but I've already did that. Also did the CF login. So type in CF login and some. I can show you that better. Type in CF login, and then enter all these values, the API URL and the organization and your space. And you can find all these. Oh, what's that? You can find all these right here under the Cloud Foundry environment. Here's your API endpoint, your organization name, and the space you created. Yeah, that's all it. And to check where you are on, you can type CF target, and then you see I'm on this org docs mission test, and I'm on the space dev. So that's everything is perfect here. Then we go into this access security JSON file, and we need to check if this URL right here, the CF apps EU10, lines up with what we have right here in this API URL. Here we also have EU10-004. And that's the same what we have here. So that's perfect. So if you clone the repository, normally it just says EU10. So you would need to change that to -004. Okay, then we can continue to the initial database data. So these are stored here in this CSV files, and you need to put your name or your email address into that. So this is the initial data for the database at the end, and in these 3 files you have to do that. Yeah, already did that. So now we can run the deployment command, which is just npm run deploy. And this just executes this deployment command right here with starting with this build command, and this runs nbt build, and it uses this MTA archives. And we have this MTA archive somewhere here. Here's the folder, and here's the file that is being used for the deployment. So it's building first and then basically uploading the application and creating all the instances. Good. Then maybe some explanation while this deployment is running. I'm now in this API folder right here, so our CAP backend service. and I'm in this service implementation file. So here we do all the calls, and also the docs calls, so we can extract the values from the invoices we have. So as a parameter, we give in the invoice ID and generally also schema name. And what we do is we extract. So normally the invoice type under docs does not have these positions that Julian showed. So that's why we do a custom generative AI based call to docs where we say, okay, we have this invoice and the first column is the positions column, and we want to extract all the positions. We do that first, and then we also run again with the invoice document type. So docs then knows, okay, now I have an invoice, and now I extract all these total amount and who's the payer and how many items of which product are issued and all that stuff. So this is just for the positions, and this is for the other data. Then we store that in these file names in the docs. Build up the docs connection, which is just a we are here connected to the docs destination. And we are going to create this docs destination in a minute. Let's get back to this function here. Yeah, and at the end we just execute a post command to the document/jobs path on the docs endpoint, and we give this form, so all the data from the form, and then the extraction is started. So now we can go back to the documentation here. Switch to that. And run deploy. We did all that. Now the next thing that follows is we need to create a role collection. So this role collection is required so that the application knows that we are an administrator, and we can see the administrator dashboard. We can create users, create accounting members, and also external validators. So this basically gives us admin privileges in the application. So we go on role collections for that and create a new role collection with this name from here. Click on create, and we need to add the administrator role to this role collection. Then just hit save, go to our users, go to my user, and just assign this role collection right here. Perfect. With that done, all that is left is now to create a destination so we can connect to docs. So docs is a service, and we need some way to connect to it. And we do that via these destinations. To do that, we go on this destinations tab, hit create destination, give it a name. You can also copy the description from here. And then we are at the URL that I will switch the screen and go here on, where is it, docs. If we have docs, we hit view credentials, and there we have our credentials to connect to the doc service. So first we copy this URL, paste it in here, and set here, make sure to add v1 and also the thing before, so document information extraction /v1. And we're going to do that. Perfect. As authentication type, we have the auth2 client credentials. And yeah, we basically need to fill this out with the client ID, copy that over, and also the client secret. Perfect. Now all that is left is the token service URL, and this is down here. And we also need to add something there. Yeah, the auth/token path. Good. Double check everything looks good. Then we also need 2 more properties. You can see down here. First is URL headers content type, and set this to application//JSON. And we also need HTML5, dynamic destination, and set this to true. Then hit save. And hopefully, yeah, process finished. All the instances were created. That's perfect. Now we can go into our dev space. Here we have our 3 applications running now. So the first one is the snapshot service, which Julian showed, which you can click on some invoice and download the current state of an invoice as PDF. So this is also a service running in the background. We have our front-end application here, just as you can guess, the front-end, and also our back-end CAP service. So let's click on this front-end here, and through this application route, we can get to the application. And the first thing you see is that some line items of invoices still need to be extracted. So we click on OK, and what happens now is we get all the invoices. The invoices are stored in the object store, and we pass these invoices to docs, and we extract the positions and also the line items from these invoices. And once it's done, you can see this sort of orange triangle disappears, which means that the extraction has been completed. And now it has been completed for every document. So I can go on here and click something, maybe this, and you can see 47.8 and 139.85. That's perfect. Yeah, as I said, what we also have is this admin dashboard where you can just add a new accounting member or external validator. Yeah, perfect. So now our app has been deployed successfully. And all that is left now, if we want to make some adjustments, obviously we want to try them out locally first before we are deploying them. So we need some way to try things out locally, basically. So npm setup, we don't need to do this again. We just did that. Then we take a look into this access security JSON dev right here. And under these redirect URLs, we can see we now also have this localhost 5000 port, which is in the end the site we're going to use to access our application. Good. Well, that's good. Now let me quickly run this command because it takes some time. Yeah, what we do here is we create another XSUAA service in our dev space, which we basically use to authenticate ourselves when we connect from our local computer to the BTP, and this is basically the service we use to authenticate ourselves. So after that, we need to bind the services we have created. We need to bind the services that we have created here, or the instances of the services. You can also see this auth dev is now being created. So while this is still in creation, I skip that for now and execute all the other commands. Oh. And what this does is it is setting here our, is it? Somewhere, wait a second. Made a mistake because I didn't execute that in the API folder. So once again, copy this, execute, and then you can see the CDSRC private JSON here. A second, also this command. Yeah. So it is this command is creating a service key in the background, which holds all the information to the service, and now these the key and also the name of the instance is now put into here, so we can use them from our local machine. So let us also bind the object store, and last but not least, our authorization development key. Yep, it is also created. Perfect. And then we have all our four services binded. Yeah, last thing that we need to do is go into our router. Yeah, we have this default services sample JSON. We just duplicate it and delete the sample from it, like that. The values you need to enter here are from your development authentication service, and there should be a service key created. Yeah, there is a service key. Click on there, and then we need to provide these 4 values. Let's start with the name. That into here, the URL, and also client ID, the client secret. And then this should be fine. This should be it, I think. That is step 4. This bind. Perfect. Now we go into our root folder again, and there we can also see we have this watch command, which basically starts all the applications, being the API backend application and our React frontend application. So it does this simultaneously, so both are running at the same time. So we execute npm run watch, and then we should see that our backend is already up at 5173. And also our backend is starting now, which is then available at 404. So what we can do now is, so first of all, if we go to our front-end application, you can see the front end, but the data is not being loaded in. That's why we need to go via our router, which routes the requests from our front end to our back end. And yeah, there we can see we have all our invoices. You can click on them, and this is also the same data because the same database is used as we had in our deployed version. All right. I think we're through here. Yeah, we're at the end. And that also means I'm at the end of my part.
Cool.
So
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
we're
you
done
so
now,
much,
yeah?
Robin. And Julian, for your presentation as well. It looked like all of the questions so far in the chat have been answered. So if you have another question, go ahead. It looks like there is one that just came in, which is, can we try out this deployment with BTP trial account and do the allocated resources, for example, 4G memory for Cloud Foundry space? Is that sufficient?
Yes, so 4 GB should be enough. And then also we noticed that even for BTP trial, there is a separate docs service plan which you can use to at least try out this premium features like we are using here. So that that this is possible.
Yeah, exactly. Normally we're using this docs premium plan as stated in this sub-account document here. We use this premium edition service plan from the document information extraction service. But as Johan said, there's also a free version which provides features from the premium edition, but limited. So you can only upload 50 documents or something. So you're limited there.
I have to say, the APJ folks, they gave us a lot of a harder time. They pushed back a lot more. So maybe it's because you guys haven't had lunch yet in the US. I don't know.
Yeah, we had a call this morning is what he's referring to with the APJ audience. And we had lots of questions going on in the chat in terms of discussions about the use case in general and how things were being used. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if not, you see the slide here. We have a couple of other missions which we've been working on over the last few months, mostly related to generative AI. So all the rage is generative AI right now, a lot of hype, but also a lot what you can do with it. We will share the slides later on. There will also be, you see those 2 links, feel free to check them out. And if there's anything you feel like might be something we can work with you on together or explore a use case, this is precisely what we do. Feel free to reach out. Can always see if there's something we can do together.
yeah, absolutely. And thank you everybody for joining. In terms of, if you want to reach out or if you have any questions, you can of course always just reach out to me, or you can reply to the meeting invite that was sent by me as well. So if you have any questions there. Like I said, the recording will be made available on YouTube. We'll also put it onto our Garage website, but I think the YouTube playlist is probably the better way to go because you can also find lots of other use cases that were uploaded over the last couple of years since we started the series. We already have our session planned for next month, so we do have one already scheduled for February, so make sure you join us then as well. Since you have already registered, you should get that meeting invite probably sent out in the next couple of weeks. And with that, I thank you guys so much for a great session start for 2025 and looking forward to seeing you guys again. Thank you so much to our experts for joining. If you have any last words, feel free, but if not, I will let everybody head out.
Yeah, I think that's it. Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us here.
Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, man.